estimated 226,800 new cases of invasive breast cancer are expected to be diagnosed in the U.S. this year. About 2,200 U.S. men will be diagnosed with breast cancer in 2012. 39,920 breast cancer deaths are expected this year alone. Nearly 1 in 10 Clark and Floyd County women are diagnosed with breast cancer each year. Just statistics, right? To Joan Hurley, Father Mike Hildebrand, Debbie Lyons, Patricia Denzinger, and their family and friends, breast cancer is far more than numbers. It is uncertainty, fear, embarrassment, pain, and heartbreak. Thankfully, advances in medical technology, self-examinations, and education, there is also hope and triumph. These are their stories.
My name is Joan Hurley, and I'm a cancer survivor of 2.5 years. When it was discovered, I had gone to the radiologist, and they had discovered this strange shape. As I saw it, a strange shape. They suggested a biopsy, and I was prepared to have the biopsy at that point, but the doctor I was attending decided it would be better if I had a surgeon do that. So I waited a week. I had the biopsy, and then I had to come back. So you can imagine during that time it was rather stressful. But having gone through this twice before, I was convinced that it was just going to be another benign scar tissue or whatever. When the doctor walked in that morning and said to me, he didn't even have to say something to me. I looked at his face and I knew immediately. And he said, "I'm very sorry to tell you this is cancer." And unfortunately, I had just a few weeks earlier come home. I'm from Scotland originally, and I'd come back from Scotland having buried my sister who had had cancer. Not the same type, but she'd had cancer. So it was a numb feeling at that point in time. But an acceptance. I have a great faith, and so I believe that this was what was meant to be. Concerned, yes, but not worried. So I opted for a double mastectomy. I felt that that was prudent to do, discussed it with my husband, and we decided that that was probably best with the cancer that I have in my family. So we went ahead with the double mastectomy, and I did go for reconstruction. Blood was in the tumor, and they felt that it could have circulated, the cells could have circulated in my body, so I went ahead with chemotherapy. I did not want radiation, and I didn't see the need for it, and my oncologist agreed with me. But the chemotherapy is a hard thing to go through, and I would say that was the most difficult experience. But through that experience, I feel, as I was going through that experience, there were great blessings that happened. The people who come to support you, because I think that many women have gone through breast cancer. It's 1 in 8 in America now. And so there were a lot of people around me who had experienced this and who came to support me. Those experiences created lots of really good friendships. When people put off the screenings, they're really putting their lives at risk. If I had put up mine off, I would not be here today. I'm from Scotland, and that's a socialized medicine country. Women are only allowed a mammogram every 3 years in Britain. Had I waited 3 years, I wouldn't be here today. It's essential to do the screenings. Don't put off the screenings.
I am Father Mike Hildebrand, a Catholic priest, pastor at St. Mary of the Knobs in Floyd Knobs, Indiana. Sometimes you could say that I'm a survivor. I'm still battling cancer. It's still there. It's still present in my body. It's been 1.5 years since my treatments, but at the same time, I know it's still there. And I go through my scans, I go through periodic checks with my oncologist and even my family physician. And so I'm just keep having to check. You never know when the next boot was going to drop, but at the same time, I feel very comfortable with it. The fact that I had cancer was the shock. The type of cancer, I was first diagnosed with another form of cancer that they thought would be much more aggressive and actually maybe even short-lived. But the doc came in and said, "I've got good news for you. You've got breast cancer." And at the time, I didn't know if that was a good news or not, but nevertheless. And, you know, at that point, I didn't realize, but I found out that less than 1% of the male population ever is diagnosed with this. Certainly, we don't go through mammograms on a periodic basis. You know, in fact, they had to sneak me in order to get one when they first were going through the testing. And, you know, it's just a matter. Actually, I had the diagnosis is just a little journey in itself. I was getting kidney stones. Never had a kidney stone before. So I was taken to the hospital, treated for kidney stones, and while they were doing their abdominal scan, at the time the ER doc said, "I've got something for your physician to talk to you about." Oh, okay, so I was still dopey, you know, and so that's how they first discovered the cancer. My urologist later on said, "You know, you're the first patient I've ever had that I could actually say the kidney stone saved your life." Any cancer person, you know, a patient, we all go through our own individual journeys. Cancers are so varied and different. At the same time, you know, some cancers follow certain patterns. Being a male breast cancer person, the doc that was treating me, my oncologist, said, "I don't very get many of patients," and he had to consult a protocol in Europe because he just doesn't deal with it very often. So, like I said, it's a journey. As I look back, as you know, I keep referring to this disease as being unfortunate, and it's unfortunate for I, as a priest, have witnessed a lot of people who are dealing with cancer and maybe not surviving it as well. At the same time, I've kind of experienced the power of prayer in the midst of it, and I feel like at this point I'm closer to God. At the same time, I feel that God is closer to me. If you have a question, consult your doctor. Don't put it off.
I'm Debbie Lyons. I'm a 10-month breast cancer survivor. When I was diagnosed, I had no idea that I would be diagnosed with breast cancer. I thought if I had a mammogram every year and there was no history in my family, that I would be fine. So it was quite a shock. I planned on going home afterwards and they would say, "Oh, it's nothing, you know, nothing to worry about," because I had been called back before because of lumps. When the doctor came in and said, "You know, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have breast cancer. It's just something like you will never feel, you know, something you never thought you would feel." You know, it takes everything away. Right then, you think you are going to die. And when they found it at where I had the mammogram done, the radiologist came out and she said, "You need to go to your doctor right away. It's breast cancer." And I thought, you shouldn't tell me that right here. And I know it's not breast cancer. You've just never seen my mammograms before. And you know, when I found out that it's not, I'm going to call and tell the administrator, you shouldn't be telling people that. But it was. It felt like the end of the world, I would say, for about 2 days. And because this is weird, but on the way home I thought, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do. I've got to really get everything straightened up at home and get everything together because I'm going to die. That's how that's what I felt like on the ride home. And then I think the next day at work I got everything, you know, I'm going to have to be off for time for a mammogram or for the mastectomy. I'll need to be off for a couple weeks, and you know, I got all that done. And then the next day was spring break or fall break at work, and I woke up that morning and it was raining and it was terrible. I was so depressed. But my daughter called and came over and got me, and I have a little granddaughter, and we went out and enjoyed the day. And by the weekend, I was okay. You know, it didn't seem like the end of the world then. The most difficult part is seeing what it does to those around you that you love, and how hurt they are and how sad they are for you. And that's been the hardest part. I just feel a peace about it. I have a tremendous support group. My family, my mother, sister, husband, daughter, and I have so many friends at work and friends that have helped me through this and just been unbelievable. When you wake up and think, I've had cancer and it's gone now. I had a PET scan a few months ago, but I think there will always be that fear. Whatever you do, do not put off your mammograms, your testings, your screenings. It will save your life. It did mine.
My mom's name was Joanne Rowe. She passed away of breast cancer when she was 59 years old. She was diagnosed when she was about 49, and she had a 10-year struggle. You know, I remember a few things specifically about Mom's. I was about 19 years old, so I was young, but I remember a few things specifically. I remember the day. I don't remember the day she was diagnosed, but I remember the day that we found out that it was more significant than we thought it was. We thought it was going to be a lump and a lump removal, so we were at the hospital with her, and I remember the surgeon coming out and saying that he'd had to remove the breast and some lymph nodes because it was much more substantial than we had thought. And that was, you know, at that point my dad and I both knew that it was going to be a much more difficult struggle. And you know, it's the first time I ever saw my dad cry. And that was the beginning of understanding, or some understanding at least, of what this disease does and how it affects people. It's had a profound effect on our lives now, you know, because you know, she never met my kids. While we lead an existence that's very blessed, and we feel very fortunate to be where we are, the fact that she was taken from us because of breast cancer before she ever got to meet my children is always difficult. And I'll tell you this, my mom was a nurse, so she was an LPN. She worked in the healthcare field, so she would have known more about it than most. I don't really know what she did in the way of examinations, but I know this. If I'd have known then what I know now, I would have encouraged her to do a lot more. If I could say anything to the men who are listening, it would be to reach out to the women in your lives. You have a role in making sure that they're getting doing their breast examinations and getting their mammograms, and reach out to your friends and make sure that their wives are doing the same thing. Early detection really is the key, and if you can catch it early, then you can maybe save yourself or the life of somebody that you love from the catastrophic effects of this disease.
My name is Pat Denzinger, and I'm a 23-year breast cancer survivor. Thank the Lord. I had always been religious about getting my examinations every year. My dad was ill, and I had to take care of him, so I missed my appointment. And thank the Lord, my obstetrician's office called and said, you need to get in for your yearly exam, which always entailed you know, an x-ray, a mammogram. So I got in the next week, and that afternoon he called and he said they found something suspiciously malignant, and we need to get started on this right away. Within a few days, I was in the hospital and had a what they called then a partial mastectomy, and I was in the hospital just a few days, and within about 2 weeks I started on chemotherapy. You know, we didn't talk about it then like we do today, and we don't see things on television all the time about breast cancer, and it was kind of kept secret. In fact, I didn't tell my son for quite a while what was wrong. He knew something was going on. I was going, you know, these treatments were going on, but at any rate, even when I did, I don't think he fully understood, but had lots of wonderful support. The children were fantastic, and it was a year of lots of changes in myself as well as in the family. And of course, from then on, there's been so many changes made in the field of breast cancer. Thank goodness.
Mike and I do have 2 sons, Zach and Jarrett, and Mom is their only grandmother. So, you know, I grew up with 2 grandmas and 2 great-grandmas, and, you know, that back then was kind of what, you know, we had a large extended family.
It was very enlightening, especially with my daughters. And of course, boys and young men in general can get breast cancer. So from then on, my son was always aware of checking himself, just like the girls do. And I would say that's the biggest blessing.
You know, what she didn't say, but what she was really saying is that back then, to say I have cancer was like a death sentence. You know, you know, you have it, you're gonna die. And what's really awesome about Mom is that she did beat the odds, you know, and I do believe that she's still here with us because of how aggressive her doctors were. And you know, I have many women in my practice who either have had it or develop it, you know, while they're with me. You know, I just found out I have it, and I'm going through this, and of course with my experience with Mom, and then of course Joanne, I have a better understanding of what they're going through and what they're going to be going through, so I can help them through that. And so, you know, what I tell my patients, my women patients who find out, oh, I just found out I have breast cancer, or I've been through treatments and the surgery and I'm still in chemo, or wherever they are at that point in their treatment, I say, look, be aggressive. Here's the story of 2 women, you know, one of which is my mother and one of which is my mother-in-law. And my mother is still here, my mother-in-law isn't. And I believe my mom is still here, you know, for lots of reasons, but really a big part of it is because her doctors, for whatever reason, were extremely aggressive in her care. They did not waste any time from the time they found it to the time of the surgery to the time she started. I mean, it was like a matter of 3 or 5 days before she had the surgery. They found it, had the surgery, started chemotherapy, and then what Mom didn't tell you is that she had the chemotherapy, she had radiation, and then she took tamoxifen for 5 years. So everything that was available at that point in time, which there's more available now, right, in terms of treatment modalities, but everything that was available then, her doctors were on top of it, and they made her, whether willingly or not, she did it, go through everything that was available. So I believe that is a big reason why she's here. So be aggressive, don't be afraid of it, face it head on and be aggressive. So has it changed me? Sure. I mean, I am you know, that is kind of my nature. My nature is to face things head on, not run away from it. Not everybody's like that. If you're not like that naturally, find one of your best friends who is, and have her be your champion, you know, and have her be your coach and say, come on, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get you through this together. No matter what, you're gonna go through this. And you can hate me later, you know, or you can tell me I was wrong later, but we're gonna have it later.
Too many women and men still lose their fight with breast cancer. It doesn't have to stay that way. Educate yourself. Perform self-examinations and be sure to schedule regular mammograms. Your health depends on it. Your life might just depend on it. This message is brought to you by the News and Tribune and these caring sponsors.